Right, Bantam crankshaft video. Let's get into it. I've been doing a couple of these things recently, so I thought, well, it's been a while since I made a video about crankshaft, the Bantam crankshaft, so I thought I'd see if I could improve on it slightly. This one has come in for a bit of a dose of looking at. I think it had been out of use for a while. The big end was very, very tight with rust and just misuse. Or sorry, lack of use rather. So it's had a bit of a free off with some penetrating oil, bit of exercise, and you can feel how bad it is. It's just really crusty in there, so it's going to need a rod kit. The main shafts were quite rusty as well. It was sort of quite dirty overall, really. So it's had a bit of a buff up to give us some good surfaces to indicate from, and it's come up quite nicely. I have trued it up. And you might think, well, why bother if you're going to split it? But I think that if you true the crank up first and get yourself a starting point, it just helps you out later on when you come to put the crank back together. Plus, you can sort of diagnose whether it needs anything else. You can diagnose whether the shaft is bent, which often happens. The mag side shaft on these 3-speeders, quite spindly at the end, and they do tend to get bent. They don't suffer abuse very well. And I've just recently actually done a crank for somebody else where we changed the mag side shaft. In fact, I have a picture of Mr. Adam Wright picking up his crankshaft. Let me see if I can technologize that into the video. 1 second. So that was Adam picking up his D7 crank after a rebuild, good cleanup, new mag side shaft and a rod kit. Adam is an incredibly talented fellow. It was a real privilege to have him here. He is an animatronics engineer and works in the movie industry. And if you've watched the Spy in the Wild series, the wildlife series, where they get complete, perfect replicas of wild creatures that are actually animatronics robots with cameras inside them, and they put them in the wild and they embed them into a group of wild animals, and they're just sitting there completely for the most part fool the animals, and they can observe them in their natural habitat doing all the things that they normally do. So Adam is responsible for some of those creatures. He did the orangutan among others. He's also done the Harry Potter movies. He's done some of the animatronics for the Harry Potter movies. So yeah, a real privilege to sit down and have a cup of tea with him. He was generous with his time and told me a lot about his industry, which was really fascinating. So thank you for that, Adam. And it was a real pleasure to meet you. And I hope that your D7 crankshaft does the job for you when you get around to rebuilding your engine. So yeah, that's that one. So that was a D7 that I've just recently done, and now we're on to this one, a D1 post 1953. It's the wide big end, and we're going to do the same with this, but we won't be changing the mag shaft as I've mentioned because it's pretty good. So I've trued it up. I've got it to within about 1.5 thou on the mag side and about less than 0.5 thou on the drive side. So we've got less than 2 thou overall, which, if there was nothing else wrong with it, that would be a good crank. When I first took it out of the box, there was a huge pinch here on the bottom dead center side of the crank wheels. So I took that out, just done a little bit of truing here and there, and it's come up quite good, really. So that bodes well for when we put it back together, provided I can replicate these results, which hopefully I can. You can also see that we're on the V-blocks with a set of main bearings, and these are my test main bearings that I keep. I've gone back to doing it this way. This is the BSA prescribed way of doing it. This is what the service sheets tell you to do. I have got one of those fancy crank stands. I think you've seen it. But yeah, I'm not at all happy with it, really. I don't think it's quite... never seems to be in the same place twice, and it's not really very robust, so that's going to need a bit of work if I'm going to carry on with using it. But this method works really, really well, and you can see the logic in it. If it runs true in the bearings and the V-blocks, where they can actually float and they can walk a little bit, and they can, they can show up the error. If it runs nicely here, when it's clamped in the casings, in the bearings, it'll run nicely there as well. And if there's any discrepancy here, were we to put that, in the casings and the bearings were held securely, then that would be transferred through the engine as vibration, and you'd rattle all your fillings out riding down the road. So I can see the logic in doing it this way. I think it's a good method, and I'm gonna stick with it. The numbers, obviously, the tolerances that BSA give you are designed to be gained from doing it this way. So the 2 thou overall on the shafts is 2 thou overall in the V-blocks. So as long as we stick to those numbers, we should be good. And like I say, it's well within that tolerance, really. It's under 2 thou. So that's good. I did mention the stuffing plates, and I'll tell you where to stuff your stuffing plates. Something I don't agree with that BSA seem to cling on to is the use of the stuffing plates. And they did it to reduce crankcase volume, to try to increase primary compression, to push the mixture up into the, up through the transfers a little bit more efficiently. And the whole idea is that it reduces that volume. But the fact of the matter is they're not gas tight. They're staked in with center pot marks. Some of them have got little countersunk screws on the later ones. Again, not gas tight. When you put these things in the parts washer to clean them, they fill up behind the stuffing plates with parts washer fluid. So if the parts washer fluid can get in there, so can the mixture. At slightly above atmospheric pressure. How is that changing the volume of the crankcase? It isn't. All it's doing is running the risk of these things coming off and carving up your crankcases. And we know that, the two-stroke technology that we take for granted now, expansion chambers and port design and all that kind of thing, the stuff that Mr. Carden came up with over in East Germany and the Japanese pinched from him, that knowledge and that level of technology was not widely known in the 50s and 60s when BSA were making these things. So they went with what they knew. We know different now. None of the racing guys, as far as I know, use the stuffing plates because they don't really make any difference. So if this was mine, I would junk the stuffing plates. I'd throw them away. I wouldn't put them back. But it isn't mine, so I will have a really good go at reinstalling this plate and making it fit like the one on the other side. So that's kind of gone through the basics of what we're looking for and what we're checking for. And as I say, I've put some marks so that I can get it pretty near when we come to putting it back together. And I've done some measurements. I've measured the width here at the top dead center. I've measured the width at bottom dead center. I've measured the run out, and that's pretty much all I need. So we'll go over to the press and we will crack the crank and get the big end out of it. Just before we go over to the press, I thought I'd show you some of the tools that I use. Or certainly these are the tools I use for doing a Bantam crank. And we've got good hammer. This is a Thor number 3, copper and hide face. As you can see, the copper face has been doing some work. This is the absolute perfect hammer, I think, for doing these cranks. Obviously there are other makes of hammer available, but if you look at the specs on a Thor number 3, that's really the kind of hammer you want to be going for. This one is a ball joint separator. Now, let me tell you the story behind this. I've got quite a number of plastic wedges, and I've got an aluminium wedge as well that I've used in the past for doing these cranks, and they work, you know, pretty well. However, good old Tweedy over at Mr. Tweed's garage, when he did his B175, or is it a D14? Can't remember. I think it's a B175. When he did his crank, he thought, well, what have I got in my toolbox that I can use? And he pulled out his ball joint separator, and it worked an absolute treat. And I thought, well, I've got one of those somewhere. So I've tried it with the ball joint separator. This is for correcting pinch, by the way, between the two wheels. Probably didn't explain that very well. When you want to push the wheels apart because they're pinched, you need to put a wedge in there. Well, good old Tweedy, because that works absolutely perfectly. That works better than the aluminium wedges and the nylon wedges that I've used in the past. So what a revelation. The perfect tool for the job. And you don't have to go bananas with it. It doesn't do any damage. You know, you get a bit of a mark, obviously, but you don't sort of carve any trenches or anything like that with it. And it just seems to be the perfect taper for doing the job. So, good old Tweedy, there you go. You know, you've got to keep learning from other people. That's the name of the game. I've got various pushers or mandrels for the press. That's for pressing out the pins. Press out the crank pins. That's quite a robust shouldered press tool. So that, you know, gets the crank pins moving. This is what I use for pressing them back together. This is just a piece. It's aluminium, so obviously it doesn't do any damage. And that goes between the press and the flywheels and presses the crankcase halves back together. This, you've seen this before, I think. This is my, for 3-speeders, mag side protector. So that slips over the mag side. So if you're doing anything around the mag side shaft, they're very delicate on the end, as I mentioned. Make yourself a little protector, which will just slip over the end of the shaft. When you're doing your end float, you can put that on. If you need to push on the mag side, just stops you doing any damage. Got my scriber. Got my engineer's square for scribing some light lines on the outside of the flywheels. Got the Dichem blue. Doesn't have to be blue. You can get Dichem red. You know, it's your preference. And then we have my new crankshaft splitting tool, which I've made from 12mm steel plate, mild steel plate, and it's been milled to 8mm, which is the gap on most of the Bantam cranks. So we'll see that in action over at the press soon. I did have a slightly less robust version, but when I came to do Peter's B175 crank, I'll try to include some footage if I can. It just bent up like a banana, so it was time to have a more robust piece of tooling. So I've got a clip of that getting milled as well, which I'll try to include. And last but not least, quick and easy measurements with the digital caliper, and then I've got a notebook and pencil over there for recording everything. So that's pretty much it, really. That's all you need. So I do intend to dispense with this method in the future. I'm planning on making another piece of tooling that will do away with needing to do that, and but that's, you know, hasn't happened yet. So at the moment, still relying on the engineer's square and the scriber. But yeah, watch this space. Anyway, I'm at it again. Let's go over to the press. Right, got it set up in the press. Let's see how much of a bang we can get out of it. As you can see, I'm using my new... Oh, no bang at all. That was a bit slack. That was a bit slack. But hopefully a new crank pin will solve that, but we'll do some measuring and we'll find out. Let's get that out of the way. Nope, not like that, Dean. Don't do it like that. Okay. I was expecting a bit more of a pop, and all we really got was a bit of a sigh. But anyway, let's get the other side pressed out, and we'll see what we get. Oh dear, what is going on here? Right. Get set up on the other side. Let me just switch you off for a second. Right, let's see if we can muster more than a whimper out of this side. That was a bit disappointing, wasn't it? Let me just double check I've got clearance underneath the big end, which I do. And let's go for it. Oh, this feels more like it. There we go. That's what we wanted. That's what we wanted from the other side. We didn't get it, did we? The jack's behaving itself. It's been playing up a bit recently. I think it might have a little bit of an internal leak, but seems to be mustering the force today anyway. So get that out of there. We shall reconvene at the bench. Right, I've been doing a bit of cleaning, and flywheels have come up reasonably well, I think. All the corrosion's come off of there. A little bit of staining, but not a problem, not an issue. Same on the back side. The drive side, the running surface for the connecting rod is very good. A little bit of wear, but not much at all, really. The other side's a slightly different story. We've got a bit of a wear ridge here, where the connecting rod's been running. If you look at the connecting rod, you can see more pronounced wear on one side than on the other. Let me get a bit closer. You see the undercuts are much more blended in with the running surface than they are on that side. The running surfaces are actually sort of running into the undercuts, really, and that's because it's been wearing away like that. Perfect fit on that worn boss there. But the good news is that the new connecting rod kits run on this part here. They run on the unworn portion. So that's good news, because you get another run out of your flywheel before you have to start thinking about doing something about this worn area, which I am actually looking into a repair to recover these worn flywheels. So watch this space. It's all kind of ideas at the moment, but I am going to have a go at coming up with a repair for these, and also I'm going to have a go at coming up with a repair for the pin bores, worn pin bores. So, as I say, not for this video, but something for the future. So we need to do some measuring. I'll try not to drag it out as best I can, because there's a bit to do. So we need to measure the bores. We're going to measure the old pin, because you'll recall we had a bit of a slightly loose fit on the drive side. So we need to figure out where that's coming from, whether it's the bore, whether it's the pin, or combination of the two. And then we'll measure up the new pin to see if, give us that sort of assurance that we're going to fix the problem with a new pin. This is the new connecting rod kit from Rex Corn Racing. Speak to Michelle at Rex Corn Racing if you need one for your bike, because they're very good. I fitted a few of these now, and I recommend them. And I don't get paid to say that. I like to endorse the things that I like and that I get on with. So there you go. Very good quality. So we've got our new rod kit, we've got our new pin, so we'll do the measuring and give ourselves, hopefully, that assurance that it's going to fix the problem, and then we'll move on to rebuilding it. So let me just move these out of the way a little bit. Oh, there's the old rollers, and they're about as scabby as they can be, flat spotted and nasty. And then we've got a lot of brindling and corrosion in the bearing surface in the rod itself. Then on the old pin again, very, very similar. I have buffed it up so that we can get a measurement, but yeah, fairly nasty. So let's get this in the little vise so I won't grip it too tightly. We'll do some measuring. I have zeroed out and checked the micrometer against the standard, so we know that it's measuring accurately. There's quite a generous lead on this pin. This isn't a standard pin, I don't think. It might be an alpha, I'm not entirely sure. It's got quite a generous lead, so we need to stay off there. And that is coming in at pretty much dead on 750 thou, which is that's the size of the pin, 3/4 pin. Let's try it in a different plane. Yeah, pretty much bob on, 750. Slightly over, if anything. Let's do the other side. Again. I'm getting about nearly half a thou under that one. Oh, dead on in that plane, 750. And again, let me just try that. Try that again, in that other direction. Yeah. Half a thou. So, there's some wear in the pin there, definitely. Let's try the new one. And I shan't grip this up in the vise because we don't want to mark it. Check you can see. You can. Excellent. Double check the microphone's on. It is. Been having some I've been having some faffs with batteries and things going flat, and it's all been very trying. Okay, so dead on 750. Which we would expect for a brand new pin, wouldn't we, really? Yep, absolutely spot on that side. I'm expecting exactly the same result on this side because it's a brand new ground pin. Yep, 0, 750. Yep, absolutely spot on. So, move these bits out of the way. I'll get the grab the snap gauge and we'll have a look at the bores. Right, we'll do the mag side first. We're expecting this to be right. Just make sure there's no has been washed to make sure there's nothing dried on in there. So we're looking for about 2 thou under, really. There or thereabouts. Yep, so that's 23, so that's exactly 2 thou. Which way did I go? I can't remember which way I went. Did I go that way? I did, didn't I? I'll go this way this time. If I'm doing the same measurement twice, you'll just have to shout at me. I am but flesh. There we go. Felt good. Grab. Yeah, a little bit more actually. Not quite 23, so we've got a good 2 thou fit there. So happy with that. With our dead on size pin and 2 thou under, we should be. Well, you heard it go with a bang on that side, didn't you? So let's put that out of the way over there. Right. Could this be the problem child? Let's have a look. It's not terrible in that direction. See that? Not quite 2 thou under. About 1 thou and a half, 1 thou and 3/4. So not far off. I think I've already done that side, haven't I? I need to do this side. A little bit less. 1 thou and 1/4, 1 thou and a half. Try that again. Yeah. Maybe just over 1 thou and a half. Yeah. So we'll give it a go. I think that might be all right. Really want 2 thou, but yeah, probably be all right. I think. Yeah, just vaguely starts in there. Slightly less there. So we'll give it a go, and I think it'll be fine. Before we go over to the press, I just thought I'd show you this thing. And there might be 1 or 2 of you who watched my earlier videos thinking, where's his crank alignment jig? Why is he not using that? And here it is. It still exists. But I'm not using it because it wasn't the success that I hoped it would be. And the results that I get from this thing are sort of no more accurate, really, than doing it by the datum line method, which I'm doing at the moment. And that's on me. The reason for that is because I didn't bore the holes to the right size. I bored them to the size of the shafts. So the shafts fit in there really well, but then it sits on the seal surfaces, which are, hardly any surface area at all. So, not a really stable surface to produce a crank from. And what I should have done is bored it to the size of the seal surfaces and let it sit on the flywheels. But the problem with that is they're not very deep, the seal surfaces. So again, whether it would be successful or not, I don't know. I might give it a go just to see if I can improve this thing. But now I've got in my mind a completely different kind of crank tool that I want to make. So I may have a go at correcting this, but I may just recycle it into something else. But that's why I'm not using it, because why drag this thing out when I could get just as accurate a result with the datum line method. But I thought I'd show you it because if you watch Mike at Britannia Motorcycles, Mike Waller, he jibes me from time to time and says, "Dean, you've got to get more mistakes in your videos. That's the secret of success. Show your cock-ups." So, well, there you go, Mike. That might be considered to be one of my cock-ups because it didn't work as well as I hoped that it would. But if you watch Mike's videos and look at his channel, he says that he makes lots of mistakes, but what he makes are absolutely fantastic British trials bikes, and he's probably the best out there doing it. So if that's his mistakes, then I'd like a bit of that action, quite frankly, because he's something to aspire to. But there you go. There's the crank alignment tool, and it still exists, but we're not using it. So let's go over to the press and press on, if you like. Right, back at the press then. So I've just started the pin. It isn't in there very far, and I've just been around with the engineer's square. Let me just show you what I mean. So go around with the engineer's square. Actually, it's better to take it out of the press to do this. So I went around with the engineer's square, got it pretty much lined up. Made a start with the press just to get it started. And I'm going to go around again. Yeah, it hasn't moved. That might have moved slightly, slight fraction. But effectively, they should all, they're pretty much there. The reason to do it at this stage is because it's easier to move the flywheels in relation to each other now than it is when you get it completely pressed home. People might think, well, just press it home and adjust it, but that's how the flywheels get slack. If you want to hit them the minimum amount of times, really, particularly when the crank is fully assembled, because the amount of force you've got to hit it with to turn it against all that surface area being engaged is quite considerable. So if you can do it now, just take a little bit more time, it'll make all the difference. It just makes it easier for you. My little pusher piece is aluminium. It's got a recess board in it, so that when the crank pin comes through, it's got somewhere to go. And at this point, you just want to be looking and making some adjustments, because you want the wheels to go down fairly evenly. And what I'll do is I'll go a bit further, and I'm going to check it again. And if it's still good, I'll push it all the way home. Now, be aware that they do have a tendency to pinch on the bottom dead center side. So you can minimize that by adjusting where your pushing force is, moving it in relation to the jack ram. But I would sort of bargain for some amount of pinch when you've got the job done, because they just always seem to do that. That always seems to be the most common adjustment that you have to make. So back in again with the square. Let's just have a look where we are. That one there at the pin is pretty much spot on. That one's looking a little bit better. And that one, yeah, about as close as we can get it, I think. I think we'll go for it now. Press it all the way home. And go from there. I'm having some slight problems with the jack on this press as well. It's been, it did leak, but then the leak stopped. But it is generating enough pressure, but it does tend to, if you leave it in a position and come back to it, sometimes it relaxes off a little bit. So I'm thinking, oh, that's pinching quite badly. You can see that. Just move outboard a little bit. See if we can correct it. Okay. Make sure the rod's nice and free. We're not snagging the bearing or anything horrendous like that. I think we're down. Yeah. So that was us. Okay. Back to the bench. See what we've ended up with. Hopefully a good crankshaft. But we'll find out, won't we? Okay, we're back on the V-blocks, and this is going to be a slightly shorter video. You're probably glad, I think. Sick of hearing me. But anyway, it's come out of the press really, really good. It isn't perfect, but I'm loath to mess with it anymore, because I think if I go chasing half a thou here and half a thou there, we're going to end up chasing it around all day and not really making any progress, probably making it worse. So let me demonstrate there is some error, so I can tell you about the error that there is, and I can tell you what we would have done if it was worse than it is. But let me show you what there is to start with. So we've got about a thou on this clock here, and nothing on this clock here. If I just turn it, I appear to have lost my zero on this one. I knocked it. Not too far. Right. We're just short of a thou on this side. What have we got on the other side? Thou and a half. Not quite. Thou and a half. So half a thou on one side, thou and a half on the other. So 2 thou total run out, which is, well within tolerance. But if you look at this side's high when this side is low, that tells us something. So if we just pick a side and work off the right hand side, let's find out when the right hand side is high. So I'd say it was highest about there, which is when we've got the connecting rod closest to us, or the big end rather, closest to us, and then this is low at the same time. So if we just reverse that, the opposite should hopefully be true. Yeah, so with the big end farthest away from us, and this clock is at 0, and this clock is high. So that means that this wheel here is tilted in this direction. So if we were going to go chasing after that error, we'd have to start down here somewhere, trying to knock that wheel that way. If it was the other way around, and when the big end was farthest away from us in a straight line, if this was high and this was low, then we'd do exactly the opposite, and we'd make a start down here, trying to get that wheel away from us. So I'm not going to do that, because I think those numbers are well in, really, and that's not going to give them any problems at all. And there's two other checks that the service sheets tell you to do, and that is to check the flywheel outer surfaces, the rims of the wheels, where you're allowed 4 thou, and you're also supposed to check these faces here, where you're allowed 6 thou. I'm not going to bother with checking these faces, because there's so many center punch dimples that the needles on the DTIs will just be jumping around all over the place. But what I will do is I'll clock a rim in, and we'll have a look and see where we are with that. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that crank really is ready to package up and go back. So I guess I didn't get to show you as much as I hoped, but hopefully that's explained the reasons behind the errors. If we had 2 high clocks in a certain position, basically, quite often with a Bantam, what you'll get is you'll put the big end at the bottom. We are getting a slight reading there, look, which indicates a bit of a pinch. That's the sort of most typical thing you get when you press a crank on a Bantam, is you get about 6 thou, because you get about 6 thou on this side, maybe 3 on this side due to the length of the shaft. And it means that the flywheels are pinched together. And what you can do is, I showed you earlier in the video, you can get in there with a wedge and move them apart, or sometimes you go back to your press and you press on the very outer edge of the flywheel here, just above the big end. You can correct it, but yeah. There we go. Let me shift the clocks, and we'll have a look at the flywheel rim. Okay, we're zeroed out on the drive side on the flywheel rim. So let's see what we get. We don't want any more than 4 thou if we can help it. We'll probably get a bit of a clonk as we drop into the groove. What have we got there? Go around again. 4 thou. Yeah, 4 thou. And see the needle jump as it goes through the little groove there. Okay, so 4 thou on the drive side, which is right on the limit. It's almost tempting to get back into this crank, but I'm not going to do it. If it's within limits, it's within limits. And yeah, you can do yourself a real disservice by not quitting while you're ahead with these things. You can end up going backwards really, really quickly. So let's have a look at this one. I've just zeroed that. I don't know if it's a low point. We're getting 2.5 there. We're going to go back to 0. We are. Yeah, 2.5. So yeah, 2.5 on one side, 4 on the other. So not too bad, really. Certainly good enough for our 4.5 brake horsepower. that we're going to unleash in the D1, so that should be more than adequate. And you know, it's a crank with a bit of age to it. It's certainly got a bit of wear to it, and we've hopefully just given it a new lease of life to get it down the road for a few more years. Last thing I'm going to do now is just measure the crank widths, and I've got the numbers that I took from the crank before I stripped it down. So 48.12 at the pin, at top dead center, and at bottom dead center we had 48.03. We had a bit of a pinch on there, which accounted for quite a lot of the run out, I think. So I've got my calipers, zero them out. There's a little scratch, which is my datum point. So if the end of my calipers line up with that scratch, I know I'm in the right place. And that's top dead center. I just have to wing it for bottom dead center. Where is it? Get it in the light. There it is. 48.1. It's going between. I've come down to 2. 48.12. Here we go. Make sure I'm in the right place. There's the scratch. There's the end of the calipers. Okay, I'm getting 48.1415. So, you know, hundredths of a millimetre difference to where we started. So that's good news. At least we know we've pressed the crank together enough. And then I'm expecting this to be a bit different now because it's running true. So, just need to get the pin at the bottom and then get the caliper to span in roughly the same place. There's no marks or anything for me to go off, so 47.26 I'm getting there. So about 1/10 of a mil wider rather than 1/10 of the mil narrower. So there we go. It runs true, or certainly runs within limits, so that's got to be right. I would like to. I'd love to be able to put a clock on the rims, but they're so centre popped that they'll just bounce around. So I think we'll omit that. But we're allowed 6 thou on the rims anyway, and just looking at that now visually, they look pretty much dead on. So we'll call it done, and that's our D1 crank sorted. So we'll end it there, I think. I'd just like to say thank you very much indeed to everyone who has been incredibly kind to us. Lots of well wishes. We've been going through a bit of a tough time with my son. He's been in and out of hospital and having lots of tests done. Lots of nasty things. Bone marrow samples and blood samples and you name it. They've had a sample, and so it's been a bit of a trying time, really. We're no further on with answers. You know, lots of roughhousing around, but no answers. And he has quite a severe learning disability and autism as well. So although he looks like a big teenager, he's actually much more like preschool child, really, in his view of the world. So he's not really known what's going on. So it's all been a bit of a tough time. But yeah, thank you very much indeed for all your kindnesses and your kind words. They really do make a difference, and they mean a lot. And as regards the channel, quite a few people have signed up recently, even though I haven't been doing a great deal. And I really thank you for that. Thanks for getting on board. And there's more stuff coming up in the near future. We're going to get back on with the B175. There's some parts coming for that now, so we can get our teeth into that. But yeah, thank you very much. You're all very, very welcome. And those of you that have been with me for a while, I say this a lot, but I really do mean it. Thanks for sticking with me and making the channel what it is. and making it worth doing, really, making it worthwhile. It's all very much appreciated. And if you haven't signed up yet and you haven't subscribed, please do. It won't cost you a shilling, and there's more stuff to come. So if you like what you're seeing, please do push the button, ring the bell, and leave a like and a comment if you'd like to. And it's all grist to the mill. It all helps YouTube to push us forward and progress us on a little bit. So I'll leave you there, and I'll say mind how you go, and I'll see you on the next one.